How to get the Toyota Tundra that you want or close to it. Got that coming up next. Bill from Tundra Nation Basics here. If you like the content of this video or anything on my channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any future content. With that, let's begin. The 2024 Toyota Tundra is one of my very favorite vehicles I have ever owned. I absolutely love owning it and the driving experience. It's second to none. I wanted to go ahead and put together a video on how to get the Toyota Tundra that you want or close to it. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the build process out on Toyota's website. And I'm also going to spend a few minutes going over Toyota's allocation system and some tips that will help your experience. So without any further ado, let's roll that clip in its entirety. How to get the Toyota Tundra you want. We're first going to go ahead and take a look at the build process out on Toyota's website. So let's go ahead and get out there. And we're going to go ahead and select build here. You can see the different grades that the Tundra comes in, the SR, the SR5, Limited, Platinum, 1794 Edition, TRD Pro, and Capstone. We're going to go ahead and build out the Limited that I actually own or is close to it. So let's go ahead and select that. And next up. And here you have the cabs and beds. And it's a double cab with 6.5 foot, Crew Max with 5.5 foot, Crew Max with 6.5 foot. We're going to go ahead and select Crew Max with 5.5 foot. And we'll move on to the next step here. And these are the different powertrain combinations. iForce Max V6 hybrid engine with rear-wheel drive, iForce Max V6 hybrid engine with four-wheel drive, iForce V6 engine with rear-wheel drive, and iForce V6 engine with four-wheel drive. We're going to go ahead and select iForce Max V6 hybrid engine with four-wheel drive. That's the color combinations. I chose Supersonic Red, which does have an upcharge of $425. And I chose the black Softex interior. And we'll move on to the next step. Now we'll be looking at the different packages here on the Limited. You can see there are a number of TRD off-road packages you can choose from. You can get a 3-inch lift kit if you want to. You can get a 3-inch lift kit with other options as well. And you see, like I said, a number of TRD off-road packages. We're going to go ahead and select the Power Tilt Slide Panoramic Roof. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I get the one that's closest to it. There we go. Okay. And let's go ahead and move on to the next step. Now, these are accessories here. I added a bed step. And as far as floor mats are concerned, I went ahead and ordered that from another dealership and got a substantial discount of Toyota OEM mats. And I ordered and have installed the TRD black aluminum running board. Let's go ahead and go to the next step. You can take a look here and see the 2024 Limited, the base price, the exterior color. They're charging $425 for that. The options, the bed step, the running board comes to a total of $69,443. And of course, Toyota Care is included at no cost. You can go ahead and request a quote from a dealer or build another vehicle. Here you can email it to yourself if you want to, download the details, or print a summary of it. There are local specials in my area, and again, that's particular to the area of the country that you live in. Tundra iForce Max is in your area. You can view inventory. We'll get to talk about that in a second, or see your nearby dealer. The Tundra iForce Max is in your area. This is currently not working right now. It will come up and show no inventory no matter what. Even if it shows there are 5 Tundra iForce Maxes in your area, it will not work. So we're not going to go ahead and go over that at this time. But this is how you go ahead and go through the build process. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at Toyota's allocation system. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about before we get to that is when you go to most dealerships or most car manufacturers here, domestically here in the United States, you can go ahead and get a car built out for you and put a deposit on it and get, I'm going to say, almost 100% exactly what you want. I know I did that years ago with my first car out of college. I mean, it was exactly like I wanted, color, everything, options to a T. There was no compromising at all. Toyota deals with an allocation system, and I want to go ahead and spend a few minutes to go over that because I think it's important to understand how this works compared to to other dealerships and other manufacturers. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, how Toyota builds vehicles. Toyota builds vehicles by way of computer allocation system. The computer determines what vehicle is made on the assembly line based on previous sales. Pretty sure it's last fiscal year. Based on the previous sales, it allocates certain models are built more than other models, trims, factory packages on the assembly line. For example, out of 100 Tundras being built, it may allocate 30 to be limited, 20 to be SR5, 5 be SR5, 15 be Platinum, 20 be 1794, and 10 be TRD. And for example, out of the 30 limiteds being built, it may build certain colors more than others, more 4x4 than 4x2s, more crew cabs than double cabs, and so forth. Now, the Toyota dealer allocation system. When you go to a dealer and say you want the specific configuration of a Tundra or any Toyota, the dealer can either tell you what they have in transit on the lot or what they could swap with another dealer, which is a dealer trade. If that dealer doesn't have or can't get what you're looking for, they can log into Dealer Daily and look for anything within that region. Now, here are the different Toyota regions across the United States. For me, I'm in the Southeast region, which is North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, and Florida. Now, here's a list of the regional ports before they were renamed. And the author of this post said this is an old repost from my Tacoma World Forum post. And again, I'm in the Southeast region, which is North Carolina, South Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida. A dealer puts in an allocation reserve request into Dealer Daily. Once you select the packages and or options in color, they have to hit a button to verify that selection is valid for the regional port the dealer is part of. It will either validate it or reject it per the regional port rules. The first reserve request is considered the primary request. You can enter multiple requests after the first one, but the caveat is that if one of your secondary or tertiary requests gets built before your primary, they may fulfill that reserve request and ignore the other selections. It's a gamble if you're willing to take it. The more oddball the config or low-selling trim like the SR, the least likely it'll be built on the assembly line. I want to stop here for a second and say, if you're willing to accept that second or that third request, it may be built instead of your primary request. So make sure that those are the second and third requests are vehicles that you would want as well. Once a vehicle is built on the assembly line, it's then allocated to regional port. It's a weighted system to certain configs are predetermined to certain regions. More two-wheel drive are sent south compared to four-wheel drive being sent to snow states and so forth. Once a regional port is selected by the computer, it will look at allocation reserve requests in that regional port and pick one that is either an exact match to that config or is close to any that are not an exact match. Then it's tagged for that dealer on the request. Now, before the system opened up, Toyota USA determined which dealer got what configurations, but since it's now open, a dealer can preference what they want. Another caveat is that depending upon how the dealer did in the previous quarter's fiscal year to meet Toyota's selling quotas, dealers get weighted on who gets what first and how many reserve requests they're allowed to enter into Dealer Daily. Another snag is if your dealer is considered a primary or secondary dealer. Primary dealers are Toyota exclusive dealers. Secondary dealers are that sell other brands alongside Toyota. They're somewhat considered a second-rate Toyota dealer, so they're lower on the totem pole for allocations. So in other words, a larger dealership in terms of the volume of sales, you would have a better chance of being able to get something in the allocation system. The reason Toyota does this is to simplify the number of variables and configurations that you have to build. If you're not building 50 to 100 different unique trim loadouts, you have less quality control issues in the long run and less issues with parts. And as you took a look when we went ahead and built the Tundra, you can take a look. There's the SR, the SR5, the Limited, the Platinum, the 1794, the TRD Pro, and the Capstone. So there are a number. Imagine that. multiply out with the different accessories and combinations and colors and so forth. It's mind-boggling. So Toyota does this to help with their quality control concerns. Now I'm going to go ahead and go over several Toyota Tundra buying tips that I've used in the past. One, the sooner you start, the better. And, for me, for example, I was turning my 2021 Highlander in off of lease, and I was about 9 months out from doing that when I started the process, because I knew it was going to take a long time because the way things were with the number of Tundras that were sitting on lots, which were almost next to none. So, and that was just for me in that instance, but you're going to have to wait, and that's the number two right here. Again, starting sooner is much better, and you need to be prepared to wait. It took me from September through the end of December before I actually got my Tundra. So you're going to have some time coming up here. And number three is be flexible. And that's one thing I can't stress enough. And because of my flexibility, it's the fifth month going into it early in December. I contacted my dealer and I spoke to the sales manager and I said, what about if I looked at a hybrid? He said that would go ahead and open up a lot more options. Sure enough, it did. And that's what I ended up purchasing was a hybrid. The next one, choose your dealer carefully. I can't emphasize this enough. You can go out to social media, Google reviews, word of mouth. You'll know what dealers are doing well in your area and are not, which ones will service the vehicle well, which ones aren't. And also, too, the larger the dealership, the better. And I'm not talking physically larger, I'm talking in terms of the number of sales that they do. And it just so happens the dealership I deal with is the number one dealership in the region that I live in. And because of that, they get more preferences on the allocation system. The next one, dealer inventory, not always up to date. And again, that ties in with when we were going through the build and I talked about clicking on dealer inventory in your area, how that's really number one, that's not really working real well. It's not working at all for Toyota right now. And number two, when you go out to dealership websites, what you see in terms of their inventory is probably an old list. You would need to actually physically go to the dealership to take a look and see if their vehicles are in stock. I would suggest call them first. And then, of course, if they're local or within a short drive, go out there and take a look and see if that vehicle is actually in stock, before you do anything with that. Consider a dealer trade. That opens up a world of possibilities. We talked about it during the allocation system. And basically, in the region that I'm in, they limit them to about 250 miles. And a lot of times they're not going to be towed in via a flatbed. So you will have miles on it. Be prepared for that as well. Some dealerships, if they're larger, they'll go ahead and they'll tow that in on a flatbed so you won't have miles on them. But again, that will open up some possibilities for you to be able to get the Tundra that you want. The next is sell your current vehicle on your own. It makes a huge difference. If you're not extremely upside down in your vehicle, you can try to sell that on your own. You're going to get more money for it selling it to a private owner. Now, a lot of times, a lot of people will go ahead and deal with companies that will buy vehicles, which they will do that. But again, you're not going to get as much as selling the vehicle on your own to a private owner. That's just, and again, this is just, I'm trying to pass on some tips to you guys here. The next one is check social media for deals. There are several Facebook groups out there that deal specifically with selling Toyotas, and that's something I would definitely check and pursue. There are quite a few deals to be had out there. In fact, some of them will, if you don't have a vehicle to trade in, some of these out-of-state ones will even offer to pay for plane tickets for you to fly there and go ahead and pick up your Tundra and drive it back home. So, definitely check social media, check to see some of the deals that are out there because there are quite a few. Next one, obtain your own financing. You will almost always get a better financing rate going through your own bank or financial institution or credit union than you will getting at the dealership. The dealership does go ahead and pad their interest rates. Of course, they want to be able to make money on the car. Things aren't, markups are not huge on these vehicles. And one of the things that I can tell you is they will go ahead and try to make money outside of the actual deal itself. And one of the areas is in financing. And I would strongly recommend that you obtain your own financing, especially walking into the dealership, being pre-approved. That really says a lot. And that tells you, that tells them that you're very serious about buying a vehicle. And the last tip that I have here is be willing to walk. Don't hesitate. If you're apart in terms of the deal, if you can't get any closer, if you're $500,000 apart, they're not budging, and you don't want to budge. No need to carry it on any further. I would go ahead and definitely walk. If they're telling you they can try to get it, or whatever, if you don't like what you're hearing, you can definitely walk. I would highly recommend doing that. There is no shame in that. You're not there to be best friends with them. You're there to get a deal on a vehicle, on a new Toyota Tundra. So don't be afraid to walk. Now, I want to throw this disclaimer up here. Tips are based on my own buying experience. Your experience may differ based on any one of a number of different factors. Tips and suggestions mentioned in the video may put you in a better position to get the vehicle you want, and are no guarantee you will get that vehicle. Question of the day. What did you think of how to get the Toyota Tundra that you want or close to it? Let me know in the comments section below. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, it's a great day to drive.